MC500 is a controller that can be found on our kettles and processing devices for more than 5 years. We are constantly upgrading it, and that is why our customers find it reliable, precise, sophisticated, intuitive, and easy to use. It can be found on all our processing devices, and it is a standard equipment at professional and premium kettles. Among cheese kettles and pasteurizers, it can control also kettles with cooling aggregates and process tanks. If you select MC500 controller, you can choose also an additional equipment. Integrated temperature recorder, controller is then called MC500R, and wireless remote access from mobile phone. On our last webinar about MC500, we were introducing new functionalities of upgraded controller. Today, we will make a short overview, repeat some functionalities, set a program for yogurt, make a look into settings of the controller, and check what you need to set a wireless connection for a remote access. It's important that you, as our representatives, can help to set a controller to your customer and can also answer some more technical questions about it. Let's make a quick overview of the controller basics. On the main menu of the MC500 controller, you can find 4 or 5 buttons if you have a recorder option. We will look thermic processing and settings menu in the next part of the presentation. If you have an optional integrated recorder, then you can access recorder menu, where you can look the previously recorded graph, copy data to USB key, and erase internal memory. USB connector is usually found on the bottom side of the control box. You can copy the records and erase memory every time after the production, every week, or wait that complete internal memory is full. Its capacity is for more than 350 hours of recording. After that, the oldest records are automatically overwritten. Now let's look Edit Programs menu. Here you can find 12 different programs. First 3 of them, pasteurization, ricotta, and curd, are short, simple, and already preset. Then we have 6 programs from cheese to program 3, which have up to 15 steps and have additional functionalities, which we will look when we will set a program for yogurt. Last 3 programs are cooling, water bath, and manual. Especially if you have a good cooling source or kettle with cooling aggregate, the option of start delay can save you a lot of your time. In this menu, you can set 2 programs to start at specific time. For example, you can start a cooling program to start in next minutes, and at 5:15 in the morning, you can start a yogurt program. When you will come to the production at 7 a.m., the milk will already be cooling down to 42 degrees, and you will be able to add cultures in short time. To start a process, you need to go to Thermic Processing menu and select the program. Process screen shows you all important details about the product and machine. On the right side of the screen are on and off buttons to start or stop a program. Escape button to exit process screen, next button to go to next step, and info to check current program or make some modification to it. But important, changes are not saved for next time, just for this process. On the upper part of the screen, you can see a set temperature and duration time for current step and control the stirrer. You can always see milk and system water temperature, so you don't so you can have total control over the process. There is also a button to directly access the recorder memory if you have a controller with recorder option. On the right side of the kettle, there are symbols which show signals for heating, cooling, and pump. There is also a power select button to select the heating power with electric heaters. Power select can be two-stage or also three-stage on some EL versions. Now I will show you how to set a program and explain you additional features of 15 steps programs. For editing a program, you need to go to Edit Program menu and then select the program which you want to change. For example, let's use one of many yogurt recipes. First, we need to pasteurize the milk, so we heat it up to 92 degrees for 10 minutes. Then we cool the milk down to 42 degrees. And after this step, we use a button with hand symbol, which turns on a confirmation for next step. Controller will wait until you come to the kettle, put in the cultures, and press continue. Now we turn off temperature regulation with thermometer symbol on the right side of temperature field. Third step is intensive mixing without any temperature regulation. After this is a very important step, fermentation at 42 degrees for 7 hours. Here we set a temperature at 42 degrees and moderate mixing until reaching the set point temperature. Then mixer stops and don't start even if kettle will need to reheat the yogurt. We turn additional duration regulation with on-to symbol. This enables the temperature differences between product and system water will be as low as possible. After 7 hours, yogurt is ready for cooling. We will cool it very, very gently with minimum mixing. Steps 5 to 8 are cooling steps with mixing only for 1 minute per step when cooling set point is reached. When we reach 15 degrees, yogurt is prepared for filling. We don't need steps from 9 to 15, so we turn them off. We turn off a step with writing a 0 into duration time. Okay, yogurt is done. Bon appetit. But we all know that before the first process is successfully finished, we need to make a startup of the machine, have some training, and make some fine-tuning. Let's look at the important basic settings that can be changed by user or, of course, by you as representative. On first screen of basic settings, you can set a language of the controller and make a simple temperature calibration. Then there is a screen with settings for additional heating and duration regulation and settings for program water bath. Temperature table is the most important setting that user can change. We will talk more about it in next minute. The last screen of basic settings is renaming of the programs. You can enable renaming with turning the option on and then press Set to select the program for renaming. As mentioned before, temperature table is one of the settings that can affect thermic processes the most. Here we set in which temperature range heating and cooling is working. First example is temperature table of EL Pro version. Since this uses only electricity to heat and on one cooling source, here you don't need to change anything. Heating 1 and heating 2, both are for electric heaters, are set to work through complete temperature range. The same is with cooling. It should be set through complete temperature range. Now we will look at temperature table of EL Pro version with double cooling option. Heating is the same as before, but for cooling, we now use two cooling sources. Cooling 1, usually tap water, will work until temperature of product reaches 40 degrees. Then cooling 2, ice water, will start. Temperature table for EW Pro version is usually set to change between heating with stove, heating 3, and electric heating, heating 1 with heating 2, at temperature of product 50 degrees Celsius. If customer has very hot water, temperature for switching can be also higher. We recommend at least 15 degrees difference between hot water and product temperature. So in case that customer has hot water with 75 degrees, we recommend switching point at product temperature of 60 degrees Celsius. If, for example, customer doesn't have hot water at the moment, they can use only electric heating. They just need to turn off the heating free, and the temperature table is then the same as it is for EL Pro version. The last we look at EL Advanced Plus temperature table. Since this is an open water system, it is important that heating 2 switches off before heating 1. With that settings, the boiling of the water when you are heating very high, for example for yogurt, is not so intense and you don't lose too much water during the process. Now we will talk about additional heating regulation, which can be turned on in all 6 15 steps programs with symbols off, on 1, on 2, and on. Even though symbol off looks like there is no heating regulation at all, it only shows that additional heating regulation is on. Standard regulation is still here. On the graph, you can see that during heating, there is no regulation of the water temperature. When temperature of product gets closer to the set point, there is regulation of heating that prevents overshooting the set point. Also, if during duration time temperature goes out of tolerance, no water in the system won't go more than 8 degrees over the milk temperature. Additional heating regulation is divided into 2 parts. On 1 is additional heating regulation, and on 2 is additional duration regulation. Symbol on means that on 1 and on 2 are both active. On the example graph, you can see that with regulation on 1 turned on, the difference between milk and water temperature won't be higher than 15 degrees. For example, at milk temperature 50 degrees, the water temperature will be between 61 and 65 degrees Celsius. With this function, you can reduce heating speed if that is important for your product. If temperature goes out of tolerance during duration time and on 2 is turned on, the temperature difference between milk and water temperature won't be higher than 5 degrees Celsius. For example, if set point is 63 degrees, the water temperature will be between 66 and 68 degrees. This function is very useful for gentle duration, for example, for fermentation of the yogurt. Manual outputs are also part of settings menu. When you start a kettle for the first time, or if you have some failure, it is good to check the operation of every output separately. When you are filling the system and ventilating it, you turn on just the pump. About startup, filling the system and ventilating it, we made a short video instruction that can be found by scanning the QR code shown in the presentation. If some failure happened during the process, for example, one of temperature probes breaks down, the controller won't be able to automatically finish a process. In that case, you can go to manual outputs and turn on cooling 1, pump, and stirrer to cool down the product and finish a process. Now we check the settings, set a program, and made a product. In last part, we will make a wireless connection of the controller to enable remote access, which is additional equipment. For Wi-Fi remote access, customer needs to have a wireless network and Android or iOS smartphone. Unfortunately, we can't write you an exact settings for Wi-Fi connection since we don't know the network of the customer. But we can tell you which parameters you need to check to establish a Wi-Fi connection for the first time. Together with the kettle, you receive also a mobile application, which you need to install to your mobile phone. With this application, you can also check necessary parameters of customers' Wi-Fi. What you need to know: wireless network name, security type, and password. Default gateway of the network. You can find that also with MC500 application. When you open it, you can read it in the first row. Then you need to determine an IP address for the controller. It is important that IP address is in the same range as default gateway. First three parts should be the same. Here are written some examples. When you have this information, you can connect to controller's Wi-Fi module and set the connection with the Wi-Fi network. Detailed steps for this setup are described in the user manual appendix. Connection between controller and wireless network is now established. Now open the MC500 application on your phone and set the IP address, port parameter, and save settings. You can save settings for connection with up to 3 different MC500 controllers. When you will open the MC500 application, you will now be automatically redirected to MC500 menu, where you can access thermic processing and start delay menu or copy recorded files to your phone. There are a lot of questions about remote access from outside of the customer Wi-Fi network. First step is always connection with controllers inside customer's wireless network. If customer wants to use remote access, also from outside of own network, for example, from mobile data, they need to make some modification of their network. They need to have VPN connection to their network, or they need static IP address of their network and set up port forwarding. For this, it is best to contact their internet provider who can manage this modification for them. To conclude this webinar, let's again go through the main benefits of the MC500 and MC500R controller on Plevnik equipment. Controller ensures automatic process. With MC500 and MC500R controllers, customers can improve quality of their products. They have total control of the current process and can check the past processes, which enables them constant quality of the product. With MC500 controllers, they can increase productivity and have more free time. With this, I would like to conclude this webinar. Thank you for your participation. I hope that you received some interesting and useful information. Now you are invited to write questions that arose during the presentation. And before the webinar, we already received some questions about MC500 controller. It was about MC500 recorder memory And about Wi-Fi settings. About recorder, I would like to repeat from the webinar, the internal memory is for about 350 hours of processing, and then you can copy all the data to USB key, which needs to be plugged into USB connector on the bottom side of the control box. About the Wi-Fi settings, I hope that was clearly answered in the last part of the presentation. So customer needs to have a wireless wireless network and Android or iOS smartphone, and then they need to have data about their network to establish the connection. What is null button? Null button is a button to which this button is used to rotate the steerer again to the stop position. If controller and kettle has, for example, scrapper steerer, steerer needs to be stopped in the exact position every time to so you can open the cover. If by some reason the steerer is not in the correct position, you can rotate it for one more time with null button. What do I set with the water bath program? Water bath program is a little specific program. It doesn't look at the temperature of product at all, but it only controls the temperature of the water in the system of the kettle. So this is very good function which can be used for some fermentation of the yogurt in cups or maybe some brown cheese or similar products. Regarding Wi-Fi network, it should be 2.4 gigahertz, or it will work on 5 gigahertz network also. I'm not sure if it works on 5 gigahertz. I think it works only on 2.4 giga. What is the maximum holding time at pasteurization temperature? Maximum time that you can write in the duration time is 1,500 minutes.
There is
why there are two columns about rotation in one step line of the program? What is it for? First, rotation is setting a speed for during the heating regulation. That means if we set a program to achieve 60 degrees, and then we have two columns in rotation, and in first column we put in 15 RPM, and in the second 20 RPM. It means that when controller will be heating up to 60 degrees, it will steerer will rotate with 15 RPM, and in the duration phase, so when it will be holding the temperature on the 60 degrees, it will work with the speed that we selected in second column. What is the signification of the P symbol in the rotation direction? P symbol in the rotation direction means that that steerer is not working during duration or holding time, but if temperature goes out of tolerance and kettle starts reheating, also the steerer will start rotating. What happens if power supply is interrupted? Here are two different situations. One is when you are cooling the milk overnight, and if power is interrupted in that time, the kettle will start cooling again at the when the power will come back. So if you will be only 5 minutes or 20 minutes without electricity, nothing special will happen with the milk, and cooling program will then continue. If you are in any other process, so you are making some thermal process, and power supply goes out, then controller won't start again automatically. Why? Because we don't know how long were we without electricity, and it's not useful to think that it was just 1 second and we can finish a yogurt program or something. In that case, user should know when this happened. If you have a recorder, for example, you can look at the graph and then decide what to do with milk, finish a product, or just make a quick pasteurization. If the controller has a second or third heating level, can I save a heating level in a program? No. When you start a process, you can start it and select a heating program and a heating power at the beginning. It will then stay the same through the process, but you can't save it to the program. Where can we upload the MC500 application for mobile phone? Here are now two different ways. If you have Android phone, you receive application on the USB key, which you receive together with the kettle, which has a Wi-Fi module installed. If you have iOS device, then you need to download the application from App Store, but it's not available yet. It will be, I hope, to the end in 1 month. It's currently in the phase where Apple needs to confirm it so we can upload it there. Okay, do you have any other questions? Is it possible to replace old MC500 with new MC500R and Wi-Fi? It is possible to replace, but unfortunately it is not possible to upgrade. So that means you need to buy a completely new MC500 with a Wi-Fi module, and then it's possible to replace it on your kettle. But it is not possible to send us older MC500 and then make an upgrade of it. All the MC500s with USB connector. So we about 1 year ago we changed from the SD card to the USB connector, and all the MC500s with USB connector have an option to add Wi-Fi. So if you have a newer version, it is possible to upgrade it. It is possible then to upgrade just the recorder, and it is possible to add Wi-Fi. But for older controllers, this is not possible, and you need to change complete system. So controller and module. Okay, thank you very much again for participating. Next time, I think the webinar will be about the MC700 controller, which will also be very, very interesting. Thank you and have a nice day. Goodbye.